Sauce.
Hey, you like Pez?
It looks like that. Here's Heaney from the boundary line. He's an expert at these. From the boundary line!
Hello and welcome to Behind the Boundary podcast. I'm your host Pez. I'm here with Sauce, and AFL is a very interesting season in 2023, but the most interesting thing, Sauce, that I'm going to throw to you first is the Carlton Footy Club. They're one of the biggest supporter bases and they are in absolute turmoil.
Hey Pez, absolute turmoil indeed. Not only for the amount of talent that they've got on their list, there was a bit of a Barney in the rooms Friday night, as we heard about, a bit of a scuffle between a couple of the board members. A bloke stepped down during the week, but the big story is something that we've been harping on the last 3 or 4 weeks. Bad kicking is bad football. The last 3 weeks, Carlton Football Club, 65 shots on goal, 21 goals, 29 kicked behinds, 15 no scores, a 32% shot at goal accuracy. They ranked 17th in goal accuracy in the league, and that's been their tale for the last 3 weeks, but specifically probably the last 2 years. Bad kicking is bad football.
Well, it is indeed, and we speak about their list highly all the time because they've got 2 Coleman medalists on their list. They've got All-Australian talent in the backline, and they've got a Brownlow medalist as well in the middle of the ground with a future Brownlow medalist possibly in Sam Walsh as well. So they do have the talent, especially in the spine, and people just keep talking about it, but then they're not doing anything. So we're trying to figure out what is the issue. Is it the coaching? Because they've swapped so many coaches over in the past 20-odd years, and nothing has seemed to work with this club. You go under pressure, you're in the public eye, you're the main focus all week, and you go up and you play a Sydney team who are struggling, and you struggle and you lose. Like, how can it get any worse for these supporters?
I mean, Carlton are a product of their own incompetence over the last couple of years. You're right. They've turned over coaches left, right and centre. There's almost no one left to blame except for the players. And the fans are turning on the club. They're turning specifically on the talent available to the organisation, and everyone is there around just sitting there, very like the Spider-Man meme, just pointing fingers at you're to blame, you're to blame, you're to blame. The Mackay brothers came out this week, and I say the brothers because it's definitely one person, and they was talking about the pressure of it. This is stuff that they shouldn't be doing. Stop making a freaking podcast and go practice shots. You analyse what's happening with them. It's not to do with their inaccuracy, Pez. It's to do with where they're taking these shots for goal. All of their shots are on angles and angles and angles. Develop a proper forward line. Get like the 1-2 punch of Geelong in Cameron and Hawkins. Get some better shots on goal, and rather than as soon as whoever gets it, I'm the man. I'm the reigning Coleman medalist. I was last year's Coleman medalist. They need to organise that forward line.
Did you just say get shots like Hawkins and Cameron?
Yeah.
Geelong are struggling as well. They're sitting 6 and 7.
But if you look at where they're kicking their goals from, Pez, it's right in front through proper leads. All of these goals that they're missing around the body, a 45-degree angle, 30-degree angle.
It doesn't really matter because Harry Mackay, he's got a 45-degree angle 45 metres out, on the wrong side, kicks it out on the full 20 metres to the left of the behind post. So that's the kind of thing we're talking about. Charlie Curnow, early in the game, he had a mark or a free kick. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. 25 metres out, directly in front. He kicked it into the man on the mark. Like, into the man on the mark. I know they still got the goal anyway, so they got the little snap over and it was, celebration. So it didn't actually affect the outcome of the game, that particular kick. But these are the type of things that are happening to Carlton. And if you're a supporter, you are just pulling your hair out for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And, I don't want to be like every other media outlet and fishing for supporters to call in. Triple M had a great segment on Saturday morning where they tried to replicate the week before, and it definitely delivered. Just opened the lines to St Kilda fans. There's a guy talking about, I got married and the day after I postponed my honeymoon so I could watch Carlton. And it's like, what are they fishing for? But we don't want to be like everyone else and talk about that.
No, I do want to talk about that because you messaged me and said, let's, get onto Triple M. And you got a smartphone. It's 2023.
You need a smart user, Pez, not just the phone.
I've just Googled on Safari, like Triple M Listen Live. They're telling me to download this app. So I download the app. And then for the life of me, search Triple M. I cannot find the live feed. I can only find like podcasts and things. So I'm doing something completely wrong, and it just is going to show my age now.
Mate, you should have just pulled out the wireless and just pulled up the antenna, and you would have been able to get it. But it was great listening, and everyone's fishing for it. And honestly, it's not going to get better. They're going to do the exact same this week. 3 weeks in a row of just disappointment and opening up the lines to Carlton supporters. But there was a few other disgruntled supporters on the Saturday, and basically, if you were a favourite on Saturday, you went down.
Unless you played against West Coast.
Yeah, well, that doesn't count.
But 4 games, and the 4 games we speak about. So Hawthorn defeated St Kilda by 10 points. We had Fremantle at the MCG defeat Melbourne by 7 points. You had GWS down at GMHBA make it 3 on the trot to beat Geelong by 7 points. And you had the Gold Coast Suns, even with playing against the Bulldogs and the referees in the fourth quarter, to win by 7 points. So there were 4 upsets there. And if you go by the bookies' odds, it was 5 upsets in a row, with Carlton being favourite on the Friday night.
And odds as big as $4.80 in Hawthorn. You look at you almost add it up and you get about $16, $17 for those four teams to win. And incredibly, it cost a lot of punters. A lot of people had St Kilda in there as their safe bet in the multi against Hawthorn. But it was great for football to show how equal this competition is, and on when teams play their best footy, and a team is a little bit underrate their opponent, or they're a little bit off, anyone can get anyone, and that's why that finals race is looking so good going into the end of the season.
Yeah, and you mentioned St Kilda, and you got to speak about the St Kilda and Hawthorn game, because Hawthorn, they didn't only just come back from 20 points and win the game by 10 by kicking 5 in a row. They actually dominated the clearances in the first half, and they just were absolutely elite, and St Kilda just had nothing to combat it or to do anything there. They ended up, getting a couple of cheap free kicks with King and getting a few goals and getting a nice lead together. And then they had the drop chest mark inside forward 50, which would have ran into an open goal to put them 26 points up with about 7 minutes to go. Didn't happen. Hawthorn, 5 in a row. Kazitsky gets them the lead, and then they kick another one on top of that to win by 10 points to a team that, we thought didn't really want to win. I guess they lost the number 1 pick the week before when they won by 116 against West Coast. So that's why they, can afford a few more wins. But disappointing for St Kilda and their fans that thought, they're a top 4 shot, because we definitely didn't think that here. But St Kilda will be fighting for a spot in the finals if they're lucky.
It's, and we're going to focus on St Kilda just for a little bit. It's such a disappointing loss for how well that they've started, because these are the ones that you need to bank. You get 3 guaranteed wins a year against Hawthorn, North Melbourne and West Coast. And to not bank those early when you've had unexpected wins there, it's really disappointing, and it's really going to cost them. Again, St Kilda coming down to the pointy end of the season, putting away those teams that they should put away.
Especially when the fixture is what it says, it's fixed, because some teams get a better advantage because they play those teams multiple times where some other teams don't. So depending on your ladder position the year before, which is kind of a strange thing that it's not a fair fixturing system in the AFL, but teams have to live with that, and they have to be better than that. Just like the Gold Coast Suns have to be better than the referees, because they were able to hold off the umpires who were extremely biased, and it's really weird to say that in an AFL game.
Not against the Bulldogs. It's not. The Bulldogs are a protected species, and not only am I jumping on my hate for them, but it's incredible how well looked after they are when they start to get rolling. Like that 50-meter penalty in that last quarter.
Bad.
The umpire himself is miles away, and he's gone, you went over the mark 2 meters. I don't even think he took 2 steps when he actually had that mark.
Look, the guy might have been over the mark. But
I don't even think that, Pez.
He's in his natural running motion, and he stopped straight away, the umpire blew his whistle instantaneously.
Do you know what I don't
Didn't give him any warning or anything.
I don't get that, is where like every other position on the floor, they're like, move back a meter, come back a meter. And he's just like, 50, got to get another Bulldogs goal.
And it was a goal. And then Waitman was after that as well, which was another goal. And it was just, are Gold Coast actually going to lose this after coming out? But they showed some heart up at TIO Stadium, which maybe they need to move to Darwin, the Gold Coast Suns, because if they can win against Adelaide this week, they can show that, we might be able to move over here and make a little home here. But they were able to overcome it and just were able to hold on, go back, kick a few more goals to just seal it. And it was just great to see a young side be able to do that. The Dogs had a lot on the line. They were going to finish in the top 4 after that game, and didn't happen for them. I
mean, it's probably more of a realistic check where I was talking last week where the Bulldogs are. But the Gold Coast Suns are impressive. They've been building, and I hope that they're able to push through this momentum. It's a really great win. They've had a couple of really good wins. The Richmond, the Geelong win, this win. Hopefully they can keep building. They've got the Crows this week at TO Stadium, and they stayed up there for the week in those conditions. If they can get another win there, they might look at their first finals appearance this year.
Oh, you're sitting.
I'm on them.
Sitting 12th in Sauce.
They could be. They've
had 5 wins.
If your mob keeps giving up those terrible wins, and they might.
Well, it'll be interesting because Adelaide were a powerhouse at home in that second half against Brisbane, able to secure another win at home, but still struggle away from Adelaide Oval. So they do go up to TIO, as you mentioned. So that'll be a very interesting even money game.
Very much so. And speaking of even money, we to talk about all the money that I won this round. Which wasn't much.
How does it end? We don't know. They've kind of lost, but they've won as well.
Geez, you do well as a punter to get out of this round with a profit, I imagine, because a lot of punters do have, their same game multis where they've got the result involved or a line or something like that. And if you were able to get out of it in the positive, well done, kudos to you, because there were a lot of upsets that did cost a lot of people a lot of units.
Yeah, those little $20s always seem to be the ones that let you down. And we spoke about this beforehand, and we will talk about it a little bit in our betting review. But sticking with your call and either backing up your multi by putting the single down and covering at least your loss if the multi goes, and trying to boost it up a little bit, or just ignoring the multi altogether and lock in what you think is going to win. If you look at that St Kilda game, on that bet, I said Sicily is going to heaper the ball. I had him for 25. I had him in my personal account for 30 and 35 at smaller units, but I sillily paired him up with St Kilda to win, and that's the one leg that fails, and then you're out with a loss. It's
you think about
disappointing.
It though, live going inside forward 50, they're $1.05 to win. So it doesn't just the $1.24 doesn't lose. The live bet of $1.05 would have actually lost as well.
Well, they were 95% chance to win with 5 minutes to go.
That was the leg that lost in my multi as well, because my big bet that I wanted to do in that game was the over 157.5, and we spoke about it last week, and we said that most people would be on the unders for that game, and I just was able to think about what happens in St Kilda games, Hawthorn with their clearances, and had the over, which got up, but you don't get any benefit from it because it's just like losing the bet and it going under anyway, because there's no benefit in saying that.
And it's funny you talk about obviously it the way the game panned out, and if it had gone to script with the 5 minutes to go, 5 goals up, then it doesn't hit the over either. There's a range of things that went wrong in that last 5 minutes that spun the narrative on the head. I mean, but that is punting,
well, it's like the casual punter on the weekend that just puts all 9 games in a multi, and then they get 8 correct, 8 tips, and they go, oh, I was so close. I got 8 out of 9 in my multi. It doesn't matter if you got 8 out of 9 in your multi or 4 out of 9. The result's the same.
Yeah, result's the same.
It's still
a loss. Yeah, and that's where we quite often here put our multis together for a little bit of insurance, and we try to double hedge the bet and try to boost the money. But multis aren't always the way to go. Sometimes it is better just backing what you think your hit's going to be and make some money that way, or hedge it a little bit to make sure that if that does lose, you at least cover that extra multi, and then if everything else pans out, boom, you get the win. Over
the last 5-6 years, this is what we've been doing. The word is probably abusing the promotions to, hedge your bets, and if something does happen that's unlikely, we don't think is going to happen, you guarantee a bonus bet back. And if you wanted to, Sauce, you could guarantee 80% of that money back if you wanted to match bet, but we just use that to reinvest in AFL because we're an AFL podcast. So that's what we do, and that's what's made us profit over the long term.
Yeah, and one of the only reasons I made profit this week was the prediction I had in terms of Port Adelaide just absolutely smashing Richmond, and it should have been done at halftime with 11 points up at halftime, but it should have been probably 20, 30 points up at halftime. I had put 3 units on, the biggest bet that we've had on the year. It was talked about it should have been 5 units, but, you take the 3 units and it saved my round realistically, escape with a 0.75 loss, and that's with 3 W's there, Pez. So it was the upsets really cost a lot of punters, and it's good to escape in the green.
Yeah, and I want to talk about your bet slip a little bit, because you had a live bet go out, which wasn't on the podcast last week, before the St Kilda game. You put Max King in there for 4 goals. He gets it early in the third quarter, gets his 4 goals, St Kilda up 20 points, a $3.30 get. You'd be loving life with your bonus bet there, and then it loses, and then that $1.05 or 95% chance goes down, and then units go begging, which is not too good. Now, the good thing that you did do, though, is you jumped on Essendon early, Sauce, at minus 40.5. When we recorded the pod last week, it was minus 50.5.
50.5, yeah.
and it would have lost, if you were on the Essendon line at the late money. So it does pay sometimes to look into the future a little bit. The other one I did want to mention, I did lose on the Melbourne one for 39 because they lost to it was just a single bet as well, a single stake. But with my St Kilda ML, it lost my $2.52 multi-source. It also lost my mixed multi that I had, a unit there. And then I did live hedge the under 167.5 when I thought I could try and hit a 10-point middle. Luckily, it stayed under 167.5. I just put 0.5 units on that, so it wasn't as big a loss in that game as I once first thought.
I mean, that's punting, isn't it? How are you going for the actual season, though? Let's tell people not only about the bad bets, which is what we do, not the bad bets, the losses. The losses, because we're definitely in a podcast that stays accountable. Tell them how we're going for the whole year. Yeah,
well, in that round, I lost minus 2.5 units, which wasn't ideal. But for the season, I'm up 5.4 units on the entire season, and it looks like you're doing a little bit better than me.
Yeah, as I mentioned, 0.75 return for that one. That's
Take that.
About 6 weeks in a row profitable, and we spoke about every week, just getting a little bit, chipping away of it. That brings me up to 18.50 units for the year, an ROI of 23%. So you're loving life, still in the green. And I'll, as you said, with a horrible upsets where 4 underdogs go up on the Saturday, you'll take the green wins.
And if there wasn't upsets, everyone would be making money.
Yeah, exactly right. That's the idea of punting. That's football.
So you can't dwell on one loss, but you can't get 5, 6, 7 losses in a row back to back. You have to still make value decisions, and you have to make decisions that you believe in your system.
Exactly right. I like that. Value decisions. Let's hear about everyone's value decisions in our bet slip.
The fact that the size of the bets was relatively small.
Our bets with an opportunity about 50 metres out.
I was with a mate, and we were getting sort of ready to leave, and he said, I think I'm going to whack 10 on Maxi. Do you want some as well? And I said,
Oh, yes! Yes! Yes!
Let's just jump straight into the specials for round 12.
Cyril takes a special and goes bang!
Yeah, Bluebet have got the 12 up promo at halftime, so it's nice to get paid out at halftime, and or even if you just can go on to win. But if you're on the wrong side, it's not a very fun one to be on. Neds have that on the Friday night as well. Ladbrokes have the 4+ leg AFL multi head-to-head, and Ladbrokes also have the 3+ leg same-game multi. 1 leg fails, 1 refund per day. So be really careful about Saturday and Sunday. You only get 1 refund for that. All games at Tab, 3+ leg same-game multi. So if you can put a few together there, you can get a bonus back if you need to. And Sportsbet, they've just gone by the wayside. They've gone, the free hit's gone, and it's Friday matches, 3+ leg same-game multi. If 1 leg fails, you get a bonus bet back up to $50. So there's a little bit around there, but not as much as the start of the season.
And that's what they do generally, sports betting agencies. They jump in early, get you hooked in, and they're hoping that you don't even check the specials. You just go through your regular, and there's a $50 or $25 donation. So.
Or when Sportsbet actually banned me and I was betting on specials, and I finally realised that I didn't get a bonus bet back after
a month when you finally had a loss.
And you're like, oh, what's going on here? Oh, you've been banned by these people. We can't override it. We can't do anything about it. And it's in the terms and conditions. You can't do anything when that does happen. So
it makes you get a little bit frustrated though when you're not notified about that stuff. But either way, that's sports betting. And speaking of sports betting, let's get straight into the first of the bye rounds. Melbourne taking on Carlton at the MCG. $1.41 favourites are the Ds. Carlton, after another media-fueled week, 285 outsiders. Minus 16.5 is the line. This started about 19.5 and it's closed quite dramatically since the teams have been released. Over under 163.5. Pez, I can't work out why this line's come in a little bit. I'm guessing maybe the pressure mounting and all the media thinking that Carlton can bounce back. But
I've been thinking that for the past month and they haven't bounced back yet. But you mentioned the Mackay Mirror podcast where he sits down and talks to himself in the mirror and does a little podcast about himself. I actually didn't mind him fronting up and doing that because it would have been easier for him to go, you know what, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to go and practice my goal kicking. But he spoke about the mental side of it. But he spoke about affecting others, so not affecting him, affecting the look on his mother's face after the game and things like that. And I thought that was really, really deep and really great for him to get that out into public. You're in the public eye as an AFL player, and you're going to get criticised no matter what. We look at social media source. The amount of negative comments compared to positive comments outweighs by a large fraction. So you're never going to get around it. But I love the narrative and I love the script. So what I'm going to do, the last 2 matches that the Demons have played against Carlton, guess about what Harry Mackay's done?
Nothing.
He's kicked 3 in both games.
Oh,
so 6 goals in the past few games. So what I've done is I've gone to lads, same game multi, Harry Mackay, 2+ goals at $1.90. Paired that up with Harry Mackay, 1+ goal at $1.17, which obviously doesn't change the odds. It's just for a little insurance if he doesn't get 2. And over 122.5, all up $2 odds. And I'm just chucking down on that and watching Harry and hoping he has a couple of shots and he doesn't kick it out on the full.
This game is really interesting because all the odds and all the stats, again, point to this being a bit of an even game. I mean, with the out of Clayton Oliver in that midfield, it leaves a little bit of a hole. With all the talent in the midfield, you think the midfield battle, well, Carlton have the advantage there. The forward battle, Carlton have the advantage there. But there's no advantage because they're Carlton and they're shit and they're dead to me, and I'm going to continue.
It paid off for you last week.
It paid off for me last week. Last week I got a little bit greedy and the other things failed for me. But you know what? I love my multi here because I've got Melbourne to win. Melbourne at the line at -16.5. I think they get that done by 3 goals easy. And then I've gone Angus Brayshaw, 20 or more disposals. They moved him to a wing last week with Clayton Oliver out.
No Oliver, yep.
He racked up 27. He's only missed it 20 possessions in the last 6 weeks twice. And one of those he basically was floating off the back line. So I love that at $2.20, 2 units. And you know what? I will be counting all those green dollar bills the next day, listening to Triple M on the old wireless Pez and listening to Carlton supporters ring in.
I have to get new batteries for my portable radio, I think, so I can actually listen to the radio.
Fill up there on that one, Pez. All right, let's get on to Saturday. And punters this week, we'll hope it's not a underdog Saturday this week because there are a few big underdogs on the Saturday again. Port Adelaide taking on Hawthorn in the first one, $1.13 favourites, the Power. Outsiders, $5.75, the Hawks. The line, -37.5, over under, 169.5.
Yeah, obviously not the most interesting thing during the week was the mid-season draft, which only 13 players got drafted and a lot of teams passed on their picks. But the most notable is Sparkle Narkle, who did sign a contract in the EDFL with East Keilor, and then decided I'm going to play VFL and try and get back into the AFL. So he didn't actually play a game for East Keilor. I think he pocketed a nice sum of money, and then goes over to Port Adelaide, who had a meeting with him before the Richmond game.
That's interesting.
Earlier this week, with Sam Powell-Pepper, who went to school with Quinton Narkle as well. So interesting to see if he can break into that 22, because Port Adelaide are absolutely flying. Hawthorn off 2 wins in a row, go over to Adelaide Oval. I don't think they will be able to match it and get it done. What I was looking at, and I was thinking this is, before looking at odds and things, I was like second half, because Hawthorn kind of fall off a little bit. Disregard the last 2 weeks, their source, because they're a younger side. They compete in the first half in the middle of the ground. But the line sits at 19.5, so I can't lock that in pre-game. And this is only second half only. Source. I saw your confused look on your face, but it's more of a live play for me if I see something during the game, because I can't bank on Hawthorn being competitive, because if Port Adelaide go 40 points up at half-time, you're not going to like that -19.5 that you got pre-game.
This one's really... You are correct there, because they have been really competitive in games for most of the year. There's been a couple of 1 point, within under 21 point loss.
They've been decent in first quarters.
They've been very decent in the first half of football, and I think last week everyone expected that last quarter them to sort of just lay down a little bit.
I did.
I think that actually will have a fade-on effect, because they won that game last week, and they get the winning taste there. Pairs they might relax a little bit, and Port Adelaide are looking for 7 on the trot, and I think they're going to absolutely wipe the floor with Hawthorn. Playing at home, everyone is chirping. Going into the bye round, I don't love the value because it is so short. The line, 37.5, I think they cover that. That's probably where my lean is. But for me, official play, steer clear.
Oh, steer clear. Toddy Marshall comes back in. And another point of note, Tom Jonas, not coming back from suspension, playing in the VFL this week too. Didn't get named.
If you actually, just a little bit of value on this game here, Hawthorn always give up lots of goals to key forwards. I said that last week with Max King. That paid off. If you can pick the right forward in this game,
Ollie Lord.
There's a lot of value there.
I just like his name. What a sick name for a forward.
But there's a lot of value to be had. Charlie Dixon for 3 goals, Pez, is looking pretty juicy there at about $2.10. But that's where all of them sit. So if you can pick the right forward in that one, get 3 or more goals, there's a nice little $2 and double up your money profit there. So
Yeah, piss off, Charlie.
cool. Okay. All right, let's get on to the next one. This will be interesting for Collingwood fans. I think the most interesting thing will be to see how many West Coast fans actually turn up. West Coast taking on Collingwood in this one, playing at SBS Stadium. $10 outsiders are the West Coast Eagles. Collingwood $1.04 favourites. Minus 55.5, which I'm really intrigued with that line. Over under 171.5. Pez. The line keeps coming in. I don't understand this.
Yeah, without me, with just thinking of your last comment, Charlie Dixon, is he actually at 210? Because I don't think he's playing.
Well, that's what he was listed before the teams came out, so probably not then. I looked at this earlier, so I'm going off my notes. Yeah, so don't jump on him then.
All right.
$2.08 for Todd Marshall, Finlayson $2.30, Junior Rioli $4.75.
Oh, that fixes it up. There we are. SBS Stadium, West Coast.
That's what happens when you look at it beforehand, before the teams come out.
West Coast have been absolutely horrible. I was looking at the against West Coast, which has been my strategy all year, the total points of the opposition club. Now, Collingwood, total points line, I reckon it's pretty spot on by the bookies here, 113.5. Now, in games where Collingwood absolutely smashed their opponent, like against Port Adelaide by 70 points at the G, they fly over that. And in other games, they don't beat it. Like North Melbourne last week, they scored a total points of 105 and won comfortably. But I just can't trust that. I think that line is a little bit too big for me, but not big enough to go the under. So I'm just going to stay away from this one at the moment. Collingwood's forward line is really hard to choose who's going to go up there, which smaller forwards are going to go and get multiple shots at goal. Is it Ginnivan? Is De Goey going to go down and get more of it? Is Dacos going to run off the back line because West Coast don't defend? I just can't tell, so stay away from me.
You're bang on there about the forwards. If you can get the right forward in this game, everyone, I think Ash Johnson for 2 goals is great value. He was paying about $2.80. I think you can get many players in that forward line at the 2 or more market because I think they're actually absolutely going to fill up. Collingwood minus 55.5. It baffles me. This line baffles me. Last week we had Essendon closed at 50.5, and the team that's 10-1 is sitting 5 points more of a line, going into a 9-day break, coming into one of the biggest games of the year for Collingwood against Melbourne on the King's birthday. Normally what happens with the big when you're playing a team that is as shit as West Coast, you look ahead to the next week. They've got 9 days. 9 days, so they need to prepare for that big clash against Melbourne.
So they need some match fitness?
I think they need some match fitness. I believe they're going to absolutely pile this on. I've gone 2 units, Pez, at $1.90, minus 55.5. I've gone 1 unit, minus 70.5.
Oh, yeah.
285. I've gone 0.4 unit, 80.5, 360. And then I've gone 0.4 units again, minus 99.5 at 750. So that's some maths for you there, Pez.
When's the last time Collingwood won by 100 points?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Interesting.
History doesn't matter when you look at those sort of things, Pez, because they're going to absolutely demolish this. We saw what they did to North Melbourne, and North Melbourne have been gradually getting better. West Coast have not been doing that at all. Everything points to a big Collingwood win. Lock that in and absolutely fill up your pockets.
Yeah, well, Sidebottom's not playing because did you see what happened? His 300th actually subbed out in the first quarter with an injury. So it wasn't the be-all and end-all for Steele Sidebottom in his 300th.
Can I just make a point on this one? I've had I've seen this because I was following someone on Twitter who had Steele Sidebottom for under 24 disposals or whatever because there was rumours that he was going to get subbed off before he got injured anyway. Now, Sportsbet, because he went off in the first quarter injured, they refunded all bets for the justice refund. Do you know that includes when it goes under the disposals?
That's not.
It does too. So because all bets are refunded. So if you had the under for him and he started on the playing field and he got injured in the first quarter, they refund all of them, including winning bets.
When is it? Before halftime?
Well, whatever they decide. They're the ones that decide. There's nothing in there about
say
justice
it's before
refunds.
halftime. You put it on a player to get under, say, 24.5 disposals. Yep. They have a shocking first half.
Yep.
And there's a minute to go in the first half. They're sitting on 3 disposals. So nearly impossible for them to get 25 if they're on 3 at halftime. And they go off with like a corky and get subbed out before halftime. you would get your bet refunded and it wouldn't be paid out.
Yep. Well, that's what they've been doing at the moment because there's no actual rules about when they can have their justice refund. They just make it up. They're refunding people in a bonus bet, and if your bet is actually a winning bet, they're refunding you in a bonus bet because they're saying all bets are void.
No, I don't like that. And
it's horrible.
I hope it's not true.
It is true. It is true. I'm telling you. I've seen screenshots of it. I've seen people on Facebook and Twitter doing the messages, but I don't like that by Sportsbet.
I don't want to see it.
Okay, well,
No,
lucky this is an audio podcast.
No,
then.
I'm not looking at those screenshots. That's horrible.
All right, let's speaking of teams that have been horrible, we get on to Western Bulldogs taking on Geelong. Being horrible, I'm alluding to Geelong, obviously. Western Bulldogs come in favourites at $1.55, but returning to Marvel. 240 outside as the Cats, minus 9.5 is the line, and that is creeping. Started 4.5 at the start of the week, out to 9.5. Over under 165.5.
Yeah, I'm spewing. I missed the boat here on the Bulldogs line because Geelong are absolutely struggling. They're not getting their top tier midfield players back. There was rumours that Dangerfield was going to get named this week, and he's not. So Gary Rowan's in, Parfitt's omitted, and Radagalia is out injured. So by looking at that, Parfitt might stay in and be the sub. Looking at those things, Treloar comes in, which is a big in for the Bulldogs as well. And I think the Bulldogs have a massive advantage in the midfield. They just need to get the proper looks on goal. And last week, Jamara Ugle-Hagan, over the last month, he's actually really impressed me with his presence up forward. His marking has gotten a lot better. He's taking 1 clunkers, and it's just his goal kicking. And last week it was tough conditions on a Saturday night. This week he'll be under the roof. I think he'll be able to kick a few goals. But I'm not going on any players to kick any goals. I've got a 3-leg same-game multi. Bulldogs minus 9.5. The total points over 136.5 under the roof, and both teams to score 40 points just to get that third leg of insurance in there. Yeah, and that gives me $2.22. And you know what? I've talked myself into Jamara Ugle-Hagan because he's sitting at $2.30 for 2+ goals. So I'll put it that as a single as well, and I'll just play the 2 bets in that game.
Yeah. It's just funny. I look at the stats and I look at everything going on there, and I like your bet. I like your bet of Western Bulldogs minus 9.5. I would have jumped. Would like to jump on earlier about.
I would love getting on 4.5. Yeah,
but it's one of those things that I'm actually going to steer away from what the stats are saying. The Geelong Football Club don't lose 5 in a row. They just don't do it. They play quite well at Marvel. But what I'm doing is I'm doing something that as a punter I generally don't like doing, and I'm hoping that the special pays out. So I'm putting 2 units on the Cats at I think it's 2. What have I got it at? 225 in blue bet for them to win. Mainly because the Western Bulldogs are a second half side. So this year they've actually lost 4 out of the 7 first halves, and they've won, obviously, I think it was 8-3 of their second half. So they're a second half side. Geelong actually sit not much better percentage, but 5 and 6. So you know, a little bit better. I think that the Cats really need to bounce back with this. The Treloar in, I hate. I think that's a horrible thing. But I like the advantages that they have in the forward line. You know, Jeremy Cameron's due for a big game. I think that their back line is really strong. Geelong, I think that's the one place that they really stand out, despite them still being still not winning games. They're still sitting a top 5 team in defense. They're still sitting a top 6 team in offense. I think it's a lot. They just need some things to go right, and hopefully, whilst the Western Bulldogs get a heap of the pill in the middle, they don't do a lot with it. They get that ball into that 50 a lot. We saw with the Gold Coast Suns, but they don't always capitalise. I think Geelong can really beat them on that rebound 50. So I'm hoping for the Cats. The first time I've actually put money on the Cats this year, I think.
I was about to say it took 12 rounds for you to.
But I think this is where it is. I think that we saw some upsets last week. I think this could be one. Geelong again, backs against the wall. The club's in turmoil with the way from a premiership hangover. This would be a good way to go into the bye round.
Piss off with your Geelong bias. You're just trying to bet on them to back your team a little bit and back them in when their backs are against the wall.
Mate, I'm up 18 units. If I can throw 2 away and try and slot them in there.
Units away.
I'm not throwing units away. That's a good bet. All right, let's get into what I think is actually the game of the round, Saturday night. If Geelong weren't playing, I would much rather watching this one. Definitely be watching the replay. Gold Coast taking on Adelaide, $1.90 even money, minus 0.5 is the line, and over under 160.5.
Yeah, what a super Saturday night. 2 games that are really, really
interesting.
Get
the old KO split screen. Remember when that first came out? No one ever used it. Everyone just looks on their phone now.
You have the 2 screens up. That'd be even better.
And neither of them had sound, so you would just sit there in silence. That was horrible.
I like this game just because I don't really know what's going to happen with Adelaide showing up away from home. They bring Brodie Smith and Mitchell Hinge back in, so their team actually gets a lot stronger.
Yep.
Mac Andrew goes out of the Gold Coast Suns, so not too much of a difference there. Witz is still playing very well. Noah Anderson through that midfield. Matty Rao absolutely towed him up last week at TIO Stadium. He loves the grass up there, so they might continue to do that. But I think here, if you want to have a bet, I think you just got to choose one side, and you've got to go with the 12-up promo.
Jeez, thanks for your betting advice there. If you're going to have a bet in a 2-horse race, I think you should just pick one. That's really good advice.
It's not the same in every bloody... You're not going to do that in Collingwood, $1.04 and $10. But
just the way that you phrase that sentence. If you're going to have a bet in this game, it'd be good to pick one team to win.
In all honesty, you could speak your mind and talk yourself into either club winning here.
Oh, of course you could.
And you don't know what's going to happen. So I've just tossed a coin and I've gone Adelaide to win with the Blue Bet 12-up promo. We'll see if they can do it away from home.
You literally are right, Pez. You could pick either side and you could talk yourself into it. You could talk yourself into Gold Coast, staying up the week. They like we spoke last week of what they did at the ground ball, keeping it really contested in there, and they could tear apart Adelaide there. They showed them last week against the Western Bulldogs how they did it. They've won their last 3 at TO Stadium and by big margins, taking out the 3 goals that were gifted to them by the Western Bulldogs umpires. And then you could talk yourself into Adelaide. Easily the most enjoyable team to watch, up and coming. Dawson is an All-Australian lock. Their forward line can, almost number one in the league. So many different options, and because these are my 2 favourite teams to bet on, Pez, I'm not having any bet in the game. I'm not having any bet in it. I'm just going to actually enjoy the game, and that's why I had to put the $50 on Geelong. So because I couldn't. Well, I've made so much money on Gold Coast and Adelaide that, and they've been great to bet on. They've been great to watch. Hopefully, this is a good insight into what the next 5 years is going to be with these 2 up and coming sides. And I hope we're in for a good game. I hope the weather's good. I hope it's a clean contest, which I don't know if it will be up at TO, but I'm looking forward to this game.
Yeah, and the reason I talked myself into Adelaide wasn't a coin toss there, Sauce. I don't even think I own a coin in this house. But I
was looking around for one. Yeah.
Maybe a bottle cap, but. Adelaide, Isaac Rankin and Josh Rochelle up forward, I think the conditions might actually really suit them as well. And if they can actually get some supply down there, I think they can really dominate. So we'll see how they go, see if they can capitalise. But Gold Coast need to win as well to keep their season alive. So that brings us into Sunday with only the 2 games, because we haven't mentioned it yet, but Brisbane, Fremantle, St Kilda and Sydney all have their bye weekend this round.
Correct. All right, let's get into the Sunday. The 1:10 time slot. GWS taking on Richmond, $1.81. Favourites of the GWS Giants. I don't think many games this year they've been favourite, but Richmond, $2 outsiders. -2.5 is the line. Over under 165.5.
Yeah, what do you even do? Because GWS have absolutely been horrible, and then they come out and have a performance like that in Toby Green's 200th game.
They haven't been horrible. They haven't lost a game this year by more than 21 points. That's pretty good for a side that's most people predicted down the bottom. They're having a heap of shots on goal. They're getting a heap of the possession. They're quite good to watch. Whitfield returned to form last week.
Not just last week. He's been in form for a while.
He's locked in that form over the last month. Toby Green won the game off his own boot last week, and he could do the same against Richmond. But you are right; they haven't been getting the result, but they've been quite strong in terms of the game plan they're putting together.
Yeah, and see Richmond, everything has been thrown a curveball with Damien Hardwick quitting. You had the big Port Adelaide bet last week, Sauce against the Tigers, and it paid off in the end with Port Adelaide getting up. But Richmond were also competitive and were able to come back from being down in the dumps from a quarter. But I'm too nervous about Richmond. If I'm putting my money on Richmond, I can't trust them to put 20 minutes of football together and then put another 10 or 15 minutes of football together later in the game, because they do it in bursts. They did it against the Western Bulldogs. They've done it in plenty of games. They did it against the Sydney Swans, and then they just fell away and lost by 44 points in that game. So I can't trust my money with either of these sides. So I'll just sit there on a Sunday afternoon, and there's no clashing of games because there's only 2. And I'll watch this one in its entirety and just watch Lockie Whitfield kick it in all the time and rack up the disposals.
Very smart. You and I and all the listeners know that Toby Green's one of our favourite players to watch. Not when he's doing it against Geelong, but I liked watching him last week. Yeah, I didn't, but he's incredible to watch. But realistically, it's a 50-50 game. You're getting $2 odds for Richmond, but you have so many unknowns in terms of the coaching staff. You have
Even the lineup.
Their best lineup's not even out there at the moment. They've got no key. Tom Lynch hasn't been in that side for a little while, and he makes a huge difference there. If you look at the midfield battle, I mean, it's GWS versus GWS in the midfield, so it's a muchness. They know how each other play. Home advantage. Well, the 12 people that GWS are going to play in, there's no real advantage there. Steer clear for me. If anything, maybe I lean to GWS because I prefer to watch them than I do Richmond. But
look, you could throw together a nice, fun same game multi with disposals because all players in both sides can rack up a lot of disposals. So you can get some value there if you want to have a look when the teams are actually announced tomorrow night.
I reckon, that's the way to go. Or goal scorers. GWS give up a heap of goals. Fast-paced, up the middle ground.
Yeah, is Martin going to stay in the 50? Yeah. Is he going to kick 3+?
I mean, Taranto last week, he kicked 4 and had 30 touches.
Yeah, that was a game.
Just a game and a half, isn't it? Hopefully, wouldn't GWS be kicking himself if he does that against them?
No, I think they're all right.
You think they're all right for him leaving?
Well, what else are they going to do?
Keep him?
They couldn't. They've kept all these other players on big contracts.
No, just more money. Just what is it? The capital living, is that what it's called? What's the fund?
The living allowance.
Living allowance.
Yeah, well, it's more expensive up in Sydney.
Apparently so. That's all we hear. Nothing else is any good over there.
More expensive in Canberra as well.
All right. All right, let's get on to the last game. And normally a bit of a yawn fest, but this one I'm a little bit intrigued, Pez. And the sound of things, so are you. Essendon taking on North Melbourne.
I haven't even said anything about it yet.
He did it before pre-show. $1.19. Favourites are the Bombers, $4.75. Outsiders, North Melbourne. -30.5 is the line over under, 170.5, Pez. Tell the listeners why back-to-back weeks you're all over North.
No.
You are all over North, mate. You got a taste last week, the
North,
winning feeling, you're all over them.
My North Melbourne bet won last week, yes.
Exactly right, look at you.
Yes, very good. And
Only positive.
The line would have covered as well, the normal line there. But this week, the line's only 30 points. And with Essendon, you just don't know. McDonald, Tip and Woody's been omitted. You got Lazaro and Curtis have been omitted as well. And there's a whole bunch of players coming in on the extended bench for North Melbourne, including an interesting one in Taron Thomas, who has been in a lot of trouble in the media and in his personal life this season, but he might be coming in. And the other interesting one is Dylan Shield in. He's been a laid out the last 3 weeks or so. Is he just going to be another laid out on Sunday? What is happening with him? But Essendon, this is a game in the position that they are that they should win. Am I confident in them? No. $1.19? No, thank you. North Melbourne, line's not big enough for me under the roof at Marvel. I would hope that North Melbourne kick better than they did last week because they really shot themselves in the foot from giving themselves a real crack at Collingwood last week with inaccurate goal kicking. So if they can fix that up, they're in with a shot to at least cover the line here and maybe a little bit more and maybe cause one of these upsets that we're waiting for.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that them at Marvel is probably one of the factors that makes you lean a little bit towards that line. The 30.5 isn't juicy enough. I would expect a team that's just knocked off West Coast by 50 points and North Melbourne, who has been a bit of a team that everyone beats up against. I thought it would have been a bit higher, especially from a team that keeps talking about their top eight chances. I thought for sure they would have been up a lot higher. But I like North Melbourne in this one, and if I had enough cojones, I'd be actually backing them head-to-head, but there's no chance I'm backing North Melbourne for the next 5 years head-to-head.
Well, you backed Geelong. Might as well.
A little bit different, Pez. We just look at their last ones. Loss.
Yeah, they were good against Sydney.
They were good against. You're right. They were good against Sydney at the Dome. They were good against Carlton for 3 quarters of footy at the Dome.
But look at Essendon's last two. They've won against West Coast and they won against Richmond, who were in an unlosable position in the Dreamtime game towards the end there. And then the 3 before that, Brisbane, Port Adelaide, Geelong, just
absolutely smashed it. And I'm glad you're saying that because that's exactly my feeling here. North Melbourne have been increasingly getting better. They've covered the line in their last 4, and I think that they cover the line in this one again. But for a little bit of insurance, I've gone a 3-leg same game multi with Neds. 1 leg fails, obviously money back, and I've bumped up that line. I've gone plus 37.5. I've gone the over 148.5. I think that free flowing football, they'll absolutely pile it on at Etihad. It suits that high scoring sort of game. And I've gone Hugh Greenwood to get 20 or more disposals. Essendon give up a heap of the pill to those inside midfielders, those contested players. I think he does the job there. 2 units, $3.20.
Yeah, all right. No, maybe not the last 4. Port Adelaide, they wouldn't have covered the line against Port.
I think they would have.
70 points.
Yeah, easily. For sure.
I'm just getting in first before the listeners out there come.
No.
Sauce, what do you want about,
Come on,
mate?
mate.
But that's the end of the round.
Was that four games ago? Jeez, I miscalculated that one.
It was 3 games ago. The multi bonus with lads, I've gone because I realised I had a bonus there, Sauce. Are you trying to see?
No, I was just going back to see what I missed. I did miss that one, you're right, because they covered against St Kilda. They covered against, or they didn't cover against Melbourne. Ooh. Mate, 3 of the last 4 is what I meant. That's what I meant. 3 of the last 4. It'll be four out of the last 5 when they do it against Essendon. So
3 of the last 4.
Hey, you know what? Accountability. I don't mind.
It's good. So I've just thrown a bonus down, and I've just put a multi in the 4 that I like. The first 4 games of the week: Melbourne to beat Carlton, Port Adelaide to beat Hawthorn, Collingwood to beat West Coast, and the Bulldogs to beat your Cats, $2.62.
Yeah, well, I've gone with something a little bit
Cheeky.
but I'm not putting it down. But I've just gone for the upset round, Pez. Odds of $3,811. And that's North, Richmond, Geelong, West Coast, Hawthorn and Carlton all to get up. So that's your upset buy round. Stay away from that one.
That's
definitely.
a donation. Please do not bet that, anyone. Please.
Yeah, no, that was just a bit of fun, just to show you what can happen if you want to piss away money.
That's what Nathan Brown would say on the TV at Sportsbet. He'd say, yeah,
he can say what he wants. There's no accountability. He just talks about all these things. Oh, I like this one. I like that one. And then
if anyone out there has actually calculated it, like it'd probably be a strenuous job to do because you've actually got to listen to Nathan Brown's voice. But to actually calculate all the same game multis that he's put out on TV, because he does work for Sportsbet and he's trying to get you to bet for Sportsbet to make money. The amount of units that guy would be down on the TV would be something shocking.
It's really funny if like, obviously we analysed the stats and all this sort of stuff. Some of those things that they put out there, what he does quite often is he just looks at the stats and goes, right, the 20 possessions, they've done this 6 of the last 7. But then you might be playing against like Port Adelaide, who don't give away a lot of the pills.
It's the things that they don't look at.
You don't look at the trends in the teams that they're playing against. But, again,
it's what they're getting paid for.
What they're getting paid for.
Yeah. So, whatever.
Right, make sure you jump on all of our social medias. That's where you can see all our bets. I had a couple of people during the week say, hey, where's this spreadsheet that you're talking about? Yeah. Where can they find that?
Twitter at Behind the Bound, just in the bio there. So you just click onto that and everything gets uploaded there, and the results will come out as well when the games are over and when so the media manager actually jumps on and does it.
It was a bit slack this week, the media manager.
Media manager was a bit ill this week.
Ill, yeah. Self-inflicted?
No.
No, definitely not.
Not at all.
No, drink responsibly. Just like you gamble
responsibly. Drink responsibly. And,
just be responsible all the time. If you're being responsible, you're jumping on all good podcast providers and you're giving 5 stars. You're giving us a comment and letting all your friends know about the podcast too, because, if they like to have a punt, you like to have a bit of an analysis of it, you can get some good insight here. And if you're following us along, you're profiting for 6 years straight.
Be smart with your money. Enjoy round 12. I've been Pez. Peace out.
I'm still Sauce. We'll catch up next time.